The election is over, and everyone's wondering what's going to happen in real estate now. Well, of course, I don't have a crystal ball, but we can look back at history. Let me show you a couple of things I think you'll find interesting. First of all, we'll look at interest rates. What happens with interest rates after elections? Well, you can see here, these are elections going back to about 1970 or so, and you can see it doesn't really matter who wins or loses. You can see dramatic uh, spreads after elections. Here's 1980, and we saw interest rates rise almost 3%. Here's 1984, interest rates fell almost 2%. And you can see across the way, it doesn't really matter who wins or loses. Interest rates kind of move around a little bit, but not dramatically in any of those times. So, what are they doing today? That might be another question. Well, here's a price of mortgage-backed securities on the market. And you can see this was September when we were roughly 5.75% for a VA interest rate, about 6.25% for a conventional interest rate. And then October happened, and we had this October slide, and the price of mortgage-backed securities went down throughout the month, as you can see, which meant interest rates went up. In the last several days of October and into November, we started seeing a lot of jittery movement as the markets are trying to anticipate what's going to happen with the election. Well, here's today, and you can see the price of mortgage-backed securities have been very low and they've been up higher. So what's happened? As of today, interest rates are really pretty close to where they were yesterday. Ultimately, about a 0.5% higher than they were back here in late September. So we don't know exactly what's going to happen with interest rates as time goes on. What about housing values? Wow, well, that's a good question. What happens with housing values after an election? Well, you can see here, this is the price of housing after elections. The blue column is the election year, and the green or orange column is the price of homes after that election. You can see in every year except one, that's 2009, that's when housing values went down. But we know that wasn't because of the election. That was the global housing and financial crisis that caused that. But what do you see? After every election cycle, home prices go up. So if you're concerned about what might happen, don't worry about that. Ultimately, what are the takeaways? Well, while elections can bring some levels of uncertainty in the market, really, real estate, it moves to its own beat. It's more about supply and demand and interest rates. So ultimately, what you need to think is real estate is something for the long-term investment. If you're looking for long-term wealth accumulation, real estate is the place to go. Now the election's done. All of you that have been waiting to buy or waiting to sell, you can now go out there in the market and do that thing. Buy that house, sell that home, and let me help you with the financing.